Oh, I forgot to put in what we're talking about here. We're talking here about frequently asked questions about prayer. Here we go. What? Dude, I'm doing Shana Life. Okay, here we go. So it's been asked that we speak about frequently asked questions having to do with prayer. And feel free to chime in anytime, thoughts, questions, ideas. I have some questions that I made a little outline with, but feel free that if you'd like to include anything else, we can do that. Okay?
All right.
Talking to you, and you, and you, and you. But really. Okay, so why? So we'll start with the first question: why pray in the first place? Right? Why pray in the first place? So many times when we talk about this, we have to understand what the primary goal of prayer. Think about it. When you're praying, when you're standing there in front of God, number one thing you're doing, first and foremost, before you even open your mouth, or basically as you open your mouth, you are acknowledging that there's someone to open your mouth to, right? So you're acknowledging the idea that there's a God, right? There's a God and He runs the show, right? That you are a dependent. Right? Adonai sefasai tiftach ufi yagid tilasecha. We say, right? We say before we even get into the prayer, that's not part of the prayer, but that's like the intro line, right? What does that mean? It means, God, open my mouth. Meaning, say, I'm not even in control of opening my mouth. The fact that I could pray to you in the first place is only because you give me the energy and capacity and choice and ability to pray, right? So, primary goal of prayer, and this is what the Ramban Nachmanides says, not Maimonides, not your Maimonides, Nachmanides says, that the primary goal of prayer is to first and foremost establish I'm a dependent, right? So because you're standing there acknowledging that there is a God, right? And so it's to basically get you out of this mindset, like that you have these TV commercials where the guy slams the basketball and then yells into the camera, I'm the man, right? So what we're saying here is that, no, the point of prayer is to get you out of the whole I'm the man mentality and say God is the man, capital M mentality, right? That's what we're looking for. Okay, we good so far? Now, additionally, there is also something called schar pisiyot. Schar pisiyot means a reward for steps, meaning to say, for every step you take, you get a mitzvah. If the step is to go to the synagogue, to the prayer hall, right? So that means to say, in general in Judaism, there is this idea, lafum tzar agra, in accordance with the effort is the reward, as we see in any relationship, by the way, it works that way, that the level of relationship is at is determined by the effort you put into it. That's why all the love songs talk about what they'll do for the relationship to survive and thrive. What I would do for you, I'd die for you, walk the while for you, I put a bullet in my brain for you, I blow up a grenade for you or something, right? So jump on a grenade, whatever it is. So, right, what are all these songs saying? They're all saying, okay, what effort am I willing to put in? Because I'm trying to say how awesome the relationship is or how awesome I feel about the relationship. The way we measure that can only be done, okay, what would I do for the relationship? So similarly, there's an idea when it comes to, so that works for everything in Judaism. In accordance with the effort is the reward. It's Perkei Avos, Lefum Tzara Agra. But in terms of, with prayer in particular, we see that there's an extra additional mitzvah called Schar Pisiyot, reward for steps, that for every step you take to go to the synagogue or wherever it is to pray, you get an extra quote-unquote mitzvah. So why particular prayer? I think because every step you take from your house to the prayer hall, you are making the statement of what prayer is all about, which is, I have to leave my home base, my comfort zone, and every step I'm taking, I'm making the statement that I'm going to God's quote-unquote house. Now, of course, you're supposed to make your house into God's house. Yes, okay, that's a different part, Torah. Okay? For now, the idea is that we move, every step we take, we're making that move we're basically making that statement that God is the one running the show. Because what's your home base? Your home base is like you get home from the outside world and you plop in your couch, right? And like nobody can, you pick up your remote, wherever it is, right? Nobody could bother you, right? Like I'm in my comfort zone now. The point is you're leaving that and you're making the move to God's quote-unquote house, right? So that's a statement. That means something. Do you understand what I'm saying?
As in, now we're talking about why we go to synagogue.
Now we're talking about the reward for step for synagogue. Now we didn't even talk about synagogue yet.
But as in, like, people can ask the question, like,
why should I go to a synagogue? Awesome. You could pray anywhere. So first answer, of course, is yes, you can pray anywhere. Second answer is that, let's understand what we mean by synagogue. Firstly, synagogue, I don't know where that name synagogue comes from, but it's not really. synagogue. We could probably do its own class. There's a lot of cool stuff to say about the synagogue. Could probably be its own class. But let's just first introduce the idea by saying that what do we call synagogue in Hebrew? Beit Knesset. That's Yiddish, dude. Get out of Brooklyn. Beit Knesset or Beit Knesset, right? Beit, the house of. What's Knesset mean? Close. Entering, ingathering. So it's a place. It's supposed to be it's supposed to be the original JCC, not the JCC now where you have half the people are members that aren't Jewish and they're not kosher food there, right? But a true Jewish community center. That is what it's supposed to be. It's not just supposed to be about praying. That's the original idea. It's certainly according to Kabbalists and things like this of what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a community center. So it means that yes, there's praying going on there, but there's also a bunch of other things going on there too.
Learning.
Okay, learning. You're being very religious. I'm not even talking about just religious stuff. I'm talking about also secular stuff. I'm talking about also a place for people to gather, a place for people to meet, a place for people to be to commune, be social, connect with one another.
But that's not what true learn.
It's hard. They're a little closer because they learn Kabbalah. But they think that's going to save them forever. We can't last. You have to actually, be committed to mitzvahs in the end of the day, or else that runs out too. Huh?
What was the first
concept of Beis Knesset? After the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed.
Because the original Beis Knesset was.
It said in certain respect, right?
So then, what was the first one?
I don't know. I wasn't. I don't know. I don't know what the first one was. It was might have been in a cave somewhere. What? That's the Mishkan you're talking about, no? That was before the Beis Hamikdash was built. There was, I don't know, maybe. Did you ever go to that shul over there in Shiloh? They're in the shape of a Mishkan?
No.
Gotta check it out. It's really cool. They modeled it after like the Mishkan, quote unquote. So it's like,
How do you know the Mishkan?
It's delineated in the Torah. And you have all those cool colored picture books now, too.
Oh.
Yeah. So you can go to the Temple Institute and see a lot about it. If you're smart, you get my wife to be your tour guide there. What's up?
Wow.
Yeah. That's it, right? Promotion. Look at that. Throwing the promotion whenever I can. So moving right along here, next question we have about prayer, and we could talk, by the way, another time about the concept of the Beit Knesset, about the synagogue, because it's a great concept, and there's a lot to talk about there, and it leads into a lot of other conversations. So, cool stuff. But for now, let's try to keep on prayer specifically. So we talked about why pray, that the primary goal of prayer is the idea that you get into the mindset of I'm. And so now here's the next question: hold on a second. So why am I praying for things if God knows what's best for me? Right? That's a big one. Why pray for things if God knows what's best? If God's running the show, if God's beyond time and space and running the show, and He knows what's up, why am I praying for something different than that? Right? And so there are a couple of answers here. Number one is that by praying, you raise the level that you're at. Right? Again, when we're praying, we're acknowledging the idea that there's God running the show. We're getting in touch with that. So we're raising our spiritual level at the time. So when we pray, we're creating some new spiritual energy here in the world, and we're asking God to direct it in one particular way or another. Okay? With me on that? We raise the level of ourselves, and then we're saying, okay, we're hoping that with that new energy, with that new level, we're asking God to use that new energy in a particular way, right? Okay. Now, also, why pray for things if God knows what's best for me? Another idea is that, well, there's two ways of looking at it, right? Meaning that there's an idea that on Rosh Hashanah, God determines what we're going to get, right? You ever heard that idea before? All of our stuff for the year is going to be determined on Rosh Hashanah. So man up on Rosh Hashanah, right? Okay. So, well, then hold on a second. If God already determined what's the rest of the year, why am I making all these requests in my prayers for every other day of the year, right? And so one of the ideas of explaining it is that yes, God, that on Rosh Hashanah, God decides, okay, there's going to be throughout this year, there's going to be 30 inches of rain. But how that rain comes out, how that's meted out, how that plays itself out, that has not been determined yet. That's what the rest of the year is for, right? So, for example, if 30 inches comes down all at once, that's a flood. That's bad, right? If 30 inches comes down spread out at the right time during the right season and all that, so that's good, right? So this is the idea that similarly here, like that, yeah, there could be some kind of a concept of God knows what's best, but we're asking God to play things out in a way that's positive. That's sweet, okay? It's kind of like when on Rosh Hashanah, you wish someone Shana Tova U'Mituka. What does that mean? God, you should have a good year, right? But you should have a good year. Everything's for the best. So we say, Shana Tova U'Mituvka should also feel good. Sweet, right? Should be sweet.
God,
yeah.
Like on Rosh Hashanah, he decides like who has cancer and who dies and all that stuff.
Okay.
So like we pray for what? That, like to play it out. Like there's only one. Like,
no, something like that. No, something like that. By the way, something like that. Always we can anything that's a negative decree, you can always, there's a possibility to cancel it. Or certainly even by prophecy, that's what it said. By prophecy, the idea is that all the prophecies that are in the Torah or in Tanakh or that came down to the prophets, we can always, if we pray, we can or change something spiritually, we can that prophecy does not have to happen. That's a klal gadol, general principle in Judaism. So anything that's painfully could change. Doesn't mean there's another answer. Let me write that one down. Pencil, pen, great. I'm gonna write that one down. That's okay.
So on Rosh Hashanah, when like we're praying and we think that our fate is sealed, really it's not because
I guess you're right.
Wow, contradiction.
Yeah. Don't worry. You can always change things. God loves you and God runs the world. Okay. Next question is that people ask about prayer is why pray in someone else's words, right? This is a tough one for people too. Right? Okay. Why pray in someone else's words? Why don't I just pray my own words? Right? So first answer is, number one, yes, you can pray in your own words, right? Okay, but still, what's up with praying in someone else's words? So what? You with me? Okay. So one answer is, it's like imagine, I don't know if I gave you this answer once. One answer is that like imagine you have some kind of meeting, right? Imagine you're a fundraiser. Imagine you're fundraising for this wonderful institution. And somehow you land a meeting with Bill Gates, right? So this is going to be like the highlight. Hopefully this is the highlight of your career, right? You're going to meet with this guy, richest dude on earth. So if you can speak to anyone before you speak to Bill Gates, before you have that meeting, who would you speak to? Imagine you can speak to absolutely anyone, right, about your meeting with Bill Gates. Who would you want to talk to? Go. Come on, man. Don't be so religious. Give me a simple one. Who would you go to?
Tell him that you met with Bill
No.
Gates.
Beforehand, to prepare yourself for meeting with Bill Gates, you want to know how to talk to him. You want to know how to speak to him. You want to know what to say, what not to say, what he's into. His partner, like business partner? Did you mean his lover? Also, all good.
My rabbi.
What?
My rabbi.
Why would you speak to your rabbi?
He's so
Wise. What you want? Wisdom. Okay, fine. Right? Maybe someone who's so basically you have like his wife, his mistress, his business partners, people who've done business, have gotten money out of him before, his therapist, people who are therapists for rich people, people who are close to him. That's the idea. Okay, so people who are close to him and understand him in a deeper way. Is that someone giving me a clapping sign? Wonderful. So that's a new one, right? This is, thank you, Simon. So this is the idea. People who are closest to him. That's a big one, right? And so this is exactly the point we're trying to make here. If you were going to go raise cash, if you valued the meeting, you want to speak in the words of those who know Bill Gates the best, right? So same thing with God. We're about to go to God. Imagine I give you right. So whose words do we talk to in prayer? Those words we have in prayers, where do they come from? Okay, they come from the sages, from the prophets, from the men in the great assembly. Who is on that assembly, right? And people like Mordechai, Ezra, Nehemiah, people, prophets and sages, right? And so, like men in the great assembly, the ones who put together the Shemona Esrei, right? And so, it means to say, like, imagine I can give you a handbook. You're going to go talk to God. I give you a handbook of what like Mordechai, or I could, like the way these guys talk to God or thought that we should talk to God. I can give you that as a cheat sheet before you go in. How much is that worth? Right?
I like that answer, but only for like requests, and also because God isn't like Bill Gates that you don't know.
So,
but imagine you knew Bill Gates.
Yeah.
And like we're close to Bill Gates.
So now you get into the next part of the question. Well, there's two parts of the question, right? Which is, hold on a sec. Right? Isn't it, right? Basically what you're saying, isn't it still isn't like, so I hear that, but still, isn't it more personal? Like when I was when I had my bar mitzvah, I got a bunch of presents. Afterwards, my parents told me that I have to write thank you cards. So I said, sure, no problem, 300 thank you cards. Hold on a second, let me just write one here. Dear, and I'll leave that blank. Thank you so much for joining in my simcha. I really appreciated the blank that you gave me. I hope we share in many more smachot again. Yours truly, Eli Deutsch, right? And then I was like, okay, here, Mom, make 300 copies, and then I'll print out 300 copies of this, and then I'll fill in just the blanks, and it'll be good. And what did she say to me? You think that flew? What do you think? She said, well, I'll tell you what, it didn't. She said, no. You have to write the whole thing out for each one. This way, it's more personal, meaningful, either one, right? Which, of course, I'm sure they all thought it was very meaningful when they got the generic thing that I clearly wrote for everybody. But fine. So, same thing here, right? Why don't, and why not? It's more personal if I just put my own words. And so the answer goes like this, very simple, that just like the Torah is here to teach you about God and the world, right? Just as God's communication to you is here to teach you about God and the world, so also prayer, your communication to God, is also here to teach you about God and the world, right? Like, for example, how are we supposed to talk to God? How are we supposed to refer to God? How are we supposed to be thinking about God? How are we supposed to be addressing God? Right? Look at all these names we use for God. You don't even realize that. We just assume them. Right? Father, King. Who says Father and King? Maybe we should talk to God like some mean older brother who's got a mean streak. Or maybe a nice sweet mother or grandmother. Maybe it should be a democratically elected president. Right? Like, where do we get Father and King from? The point is that there are certain things that were in there, what it means by Father, what it means by King. And yes, we need to discuss those things that are for us to understand a certain way and put us in a certain mindset of how we look at God and how we talk to God. Right? And because if we don't have those guidelines about how to address God, how to look at God, so then what do we start to do as a people, as individuals, or as a society, certainly over time, is that we start to view God not as the God that is, but we start to look at God like when we think about God, instead of thinking about the certain understandings that we have of God, we start to think about like this jolly dude in a red suit who comes down your chimney every December 24th to give you presents, right? Because we start to think about God not as the God that is, but as the God of society, right? So you take a little Judaism with a little Christianism, some secularism, put it all together, voila. And then you're worshiping the God, not the God that is, but the God of your society, or the God of your imagination. And we actually have a word for this in Judaism. It's called, anybody? Avodah Zarah, idolatry, right? And that's not doing anyone any good, right? And so therefore it's important that we have the text and that we're involved in the prayer, not to mention, by the way, all the different things I didn't mention having to do with the Kabbalistic way the prayer is set up and how you're moving from one world of consciousness to the next, and how all the different words certainly are spiced in with all sorts of Roshei Tevos and Sofei Tevos, acronyms, backronyms, and gematrias and all these other things, right, which you didn't even mention, right? But even without that. So it's important to have this system and understand that it is a system, and we're doing tikkunim in the world. We're doing fixing rectifications in the world by being involved in these prayers every single day. And then on top of that, you want to pray in your own words? Bevakasha.
So
both good, and by the way, both good and both necessary.
Okay, so
right?
let me just understand if I got this.
Go ahead.
By
Do you want to talk into Facebook Live? Just spin it around there. Okay.
By us
Yes.
Praying in our own words.
Yeah.
So by us praying in the words of the scholars and all
Yes.
that,
Yes.
is us kind of keeping our mindset on the God that is, as opposed to our distorted version of God.
Our version that would be easily distorted. Yeah.
But how does that connect?
What do you mean? How does that connect?
What is dominating?
So yes, we do have to make that ours. We have to make that ours. You're right. It's not supposed to be something that okay, I'm here and I have my perceptions, and then there's this structure or this prayer or this book that I'm supposed to read, and I have nothing to do with it, but I'm just doing it so that I'm not messing things up. No, that's not really the way. We shouldn't stay in that mode, right? We have to build a relationship with the prayer, build a relationship and understanding of it on a deeper level, make it meaningful for us, absolutely, without distorting it, of course, right? So we do have to make it ours. Right? We have to learn about it. We have to understand what's the intent. We have to learn why are we saying this here and this there? Why in this order? What's the elevation that's going on here? What are the steps that's being taken here too? Right?
Maybe like if the time doesn't make sense,
Go ahead.
It like creates an absoluteness throughout like the whole Jewish nation. That like
also true.
Also true. God, and then everyone else. We each have our own like version of Him, obviously, because each one of us have our own separate minds and mindset and consciousness. So we view God in a different way.
Okay.
But all of us have the same God. So like by us dominating the same like the same words, the same like setup, makes us all connected, but at the same time all separate. There's
definitely something to it about having to do with Jewish unity, and I was going to talk about that also. But the next question, which is, okay, well, what this get more meaningful for me, right? Which is the question that also people will ask. Yeah. And so let's talk about that, right? So number one,
I don't really get your answer, but like, does that answer make sense?
The answer is fine. I mean, I think that answer is okay. It's just not the answer I was giving you, but hey, if that works for you, awesome.
Understand the connection between prayer
and what?
Like how we view, like how. Like,
what do you mean? You don't really even realize that way. The way we're speaking to God, look in the prayers in accordance with. Oh, sorry, I'm middle of the class. Call you back. This is my new phone, by the way. So there you go. Yeah, iPhone 5 with cracked screen. Good job. Got it from someone. So I thank whoever gave it to me. They know who they are. But say again. It's okay. So anyway, what I was saying was that if what were we saying?
I was saying how I don't get the connection between prayer and like how the world views God and how by us dominating.
Because when we speak in a certain way, we're speaking in a certain way. Again, we're speaking about we're having perceptions of God, right? That's what we're doing. So in the prayers itself, we refer to God in certain ways at certain times. We refer to God with certain words, with certain names, right? Sometimes we refer to God as a parent. Sometimes we refer to God as a master. Sometimes we refer to God as a king. Sometimes we refer to God as with Yud Kei Vav Kei. Sometimes we refer to Elohim, right? All this stuff means something, right?
Yeah.
And also in terms of how we refer to ourselves and how we're having a relationship with God. Do you understand that the Tefillat Shemona Esrei, for example, the requests are set up as a process of redemption, and like it's a whole thing. So, our own personal thing to go out there and just be like, God, I feel like this is also good, but we're missing something if that's the only thing we're doing. Okay? It definitely keeps us grounded and aspiring, looking towards the right thing. Okay, so good, Baruch Hashem. So now let's just move forward on this concept of making it more personal or more meaningful to me, and say, okay, well, why not? Why in Hebrew? Why not do it in some? Say again. Do this properly. It's okay. You can pray from here on out. Okay, you know what? Sometimes opens the door when there's a bikush, a wanting it. When there's a certain feeling of I don't have something, it makes you want it, and then it means that you're going to receive it better when it comes. There you go. Good. So firstly, the first answer why Hebrew is, well, this is what the Jewish people are all doing, and this is what the Jewish people have been doing forever. So there's something to that Jewish unity and collective connection. Okay, that's one. But also, here's another one. Imagine someone told you that they're an expert in Shakespeare in French. Would you say that they're an expert in Shakespeare? No, right? So the same thing here. There's something that's lost in translation. Now, also more important than all of this, I believe, more accurate than all of it, more straightforward than everything we said so far, is the idea that Hebrew is the Lashon HaKodesh, the holy tongue, the holy language. Meaning to say that Hebrew is the language of creation, right? And so when we're speaking in the Hebrew language, this is the language by which God created the world. God said, Yehi or, Vayehi or. God said, let there be light, and there was light. So this means that when we speak in Hebrew, we're getting to the core of things. We're getting to the root of things. We're fixing things on the root level, hopefully, right? And so there's something to the qualitative power of the Hebrew language. However, there is also something throughout Judaism, and especially in prayer, something called kavanah. Intention, concentration, focus, your attachment to what you're saying, your intent, right? And that's also important. So you might ask the question, hold on a second. Am I going to sacrifice? It's like it seems like there's a sacrifice that needs to be made. Either I'm going to sacrifice intent and understanding of what I'm saying, or I'm going to sacrifice Hebrew language, right? How am I going to? So the answer that's given to this is that basically the ideal thing to do is to first say it over or look it over in English and then say that thing in Hebrew. So you understand what you're saying, right? Now, so let's say a person said, I'm going to pray for a half hour, right? And the person came to you with a question. I can pray. I got a half hour to pray. Should I pray in Hebrew? In which case, I don't understand what I'm saying. But I am praying in the Holy Tongue. Or should I pray in English where I understand what I'm saying, but I'm not praying in the Holy Tongue? The answer to that is that better to pray half as much, but with understanding and in Hebrew. I mean to say, so instead of doing 30 minutes of one or 30 minutes of the other, take 15 minutes to read over half as much in English, and then say that in Hebrew. Got it? So that's what they say. Say it in English, read it, or just read it in English, just so the point is that you should understand what you're about to say.
Equal balance.
Yes, but the point is here that you get both. You get something with both the Hebrew language and the understanding. Okay? And as you become more in flow with that, of course, you can move on to the next thing. You'll be able to say more probably, right, in that amount of time. Or who knows, maybe you decide I'll take more time to pray. Who knows? Maybe. Okay. Questions, thoughts, ideas, because we're over time already.
I'm thinking. That was so good. That was a really pulled through.
Baruch Hashem, I pulled through. You hear that?
No, literally, like
my class this morning was like why pray, and it was very different. So
what do you mean your class this morning?
I had a class this morning. And it was
earlier? Oh wow, okay.
You're not the first teacher.
I thought I was. I wasn't sure about that. Okay, I'm going to cut off the Facebook Live here. If anyone has any questions, feel free to just comment and I'll check back.